All right, we're gonna jump right in. So, good morning, everybody. We're a little bit late, so let's just jump right in. It is Coffee Chat on August 28th, and I'm here with Miss Shelby, and then our guest this week is Nikki Johnsrud, and there's so much I could say about Miss Nikki. Her and I met 7 years ago through our last company, and we are getting to work together into the future. And today she agreed to join us. Nikki speaks to women across the region about transitions and finding your joy and finding your space and being a woman and how we can take care of ourselves before taking care of everybody else, right? Even though we still have to be doing that. So I'm going to just let you take the floor, Nikki, and we're going to go from there.
Okay, thanks, Miss Chelsea. I have, just so you guys know, I have my camera or my phone, so I have it and it's suction cupped onto the computer, so I'm trying to see everything to make sure. And thanks, Chelsea, for saying move back, because I don't want you guys to just see my eyeballs. So I feel like I'm having to move exceedingly far back. So I'm gonna move even farther back. So, thank you guys for having me today. Yes, JennyLee and I have a past history, but a joyful one at that. And so when her and Shelby decided to start this project, the Real Joy Project, it really warmed my heart because Cope Consulting is all based in connection. My mission is to help women connect with other women and themselves. And so their mission is similar, trying to connect people not just within your community, your geographical community, but all over, basically all over the world, wherever you can be. So when they asked me to hop on, I was gracious and said yes, of course, because anytime I can talk with women, I'm all for it. So, yeah. So that's where, good morning.
So I'm so glad you're here with us, and you speak so eloquently is a word that I actually hear you say quite a bit. But I feel like when you talk to women that you speak to so many of us, and you have been through a lot of transitions in your life, and the thing that I hear you say a lot is that you through life that you have found that you were trying to people please, right? And do everything that you thought you should be doing, that you thought society meant you should be doing as a wife and a mom and a school counselor and crisis management and all the things that you thought, or in a PTO and then boards in your community and just all the things. And then through those transitions and stuff, you've just told me so many times, you realize if we don't stop and fill our own cups first, we can't help we can't be there the way we want to be for our families and our loved ones and our friends.
Yes, so true, so true. I actually was just listening to a podcast this morning that a friend of mine had sent to me, and it talked about how we outsource our emotions. And I think a lot of times we do that in those things. I'm guessing that a lot of the women that are joining us today are much like ourselves. I know for myself, for many, many years, I was always on the go. I didn't ever rest. I thought that was something for when I retired, or, if I broke my leg or something like that. I thought that we were supposed to be in constant motion, and I often felt that pressure to keep moving forward and always doing all the things. And I will tell you, when some big transitions happened in our lives, we lost our daughter in a tragic car accident for just over 4 years ago. And that was a huge transition. There were other transitions before then. I think we all have transitions. We all have major life events that, help define us, trying to figure out which direction we're going to go. And I realized through that transition of, through the grief, that there were a lot of things that I wanted to change about my life. Now, do I realize that a lot of the things that happened previously got me through, right? The people pleasing, it actually was, it's actually a strength. I think a lot of times, and even myself sometimes will talk about it, that I've got to stop that. Well, here's the thing, it was a coping mechanism that a lot of us do to get through those hard and difficult situations. Whether it's people pleasing, whether it's being high functioning codependent, I kind of claim myself to be that. That's that same thing of being very driven and thinking we don't need anyone else to help us, that we're the ones we're going to get ourselves through. And so that is, I thought about it as a weakness for a while, and now I realize it actually was a strength. What I just need to do is figure out how to do that with balance, right? And so transitioning into where, you know what, it's not just always about everyone else. I mean, I want to have connection. I want to help my community. I want to help my family, my friends. But I was also doing that at the detriment of myself. So figuring out how can I transition to, you know, a lot of people kind of struggle with us saying putting us ourselves first. I even just say ask to have us alongside the other people that we're doing things for in our lives. So that's where this kind of idea of like thinking about, because so many times we think we're so different than other people. For example, I'm just going to say an example like Shelby right now. She's got a little one, right? She's in the transition of, she went from being married, or, you know, single, then married, then having a baby. And I just went through the transition of sending our son off for his second year of college. So in a very, and now, you know, wondering that transition of purpose, like what am I supposed to be? I even still find times where, like yesterday, I called him and I'm like, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And then I said, oops, I forget. You're an adult. I know you know how to take care of things, and I know that you can do it. I just said it's sometimes hard for mom to transition into that part of remembering that you're now an adult, and you'll ask if you need help. So even that as a transition, I will say that's a huge step for me, because before I would have just bulldozed through and just said, hey, you got to go do all these things, and not asked or said to him to recognize where I was overstepping. I was going past his boundaries. So realizing that we have to shift in those transitions of what we look like and what we want from life and from ourselves and from the people around us.
Absolutely. And so, Nikki, one of the things you talk about a lot is when you're going through times that can be hard. And I know, like, when Judd went back to school this fall, that was kind of hard on you. You know, it's hard on a mama. And like, so, but you always talk about how do we find a little bit of joy even in those transitions that are difficult and that are hard? How do you not fall into like, oh, I'm just gonna stay in bed for a few days, and you know, how do you do that?
Well, that's taken me some time. I'll be honest. It's not something. I think I definitely, at certain parts of my life, played the martyr, right? Like I'm just going to get up and I'm going to do it, and even though it's really hard, and we have to have a certain part of that strength with it within us. But what I've started to discover is that um, what we focus on comes about, right? So and that's not to say to not feel those feelings, because I think I called you or Marco'd you after I dropped him off, you know, and I was, even this is his second year, even though I did it last year, and I should, you know, this is old hat, so to speak, right? Real acknowledging those feelings. I think so many times as women, we don't want to be seen as too emotional or, you know, whatever that looks like. So we kind of will tamper ourselves. And I think we do a disservice with ourselves in that. Let ourselves feel those feelings, but then also step back and really take a look at what is going well. So for example, you know, for my kiddo going off to school, realize that, you know what, he knew where to go. I didn't have to tell him where to go. He is able to, he took a Snapchat of last night, sending me that he had made a family favorite for supper. And I was like, gosh, did I like walk him through everything like that recently? I mean, I would show him what I was using to make it a time or two. And actually our daughter, I remember when I said that to her, I kind of had this like breakdown with her when she was prepping to go off to school. And I said, oh my gosh, there's so many things I haven't taught you yet. I'm feeling like I didn't prepare you. And she looked at me and she was kind of ticked off. She's like, geez, Mom, what do you think, I'm stupid? And I was like, well, no, actually, I'm thinking I failed you. And she said, you didn't fail me. You taught me all of the things to give me the foundation to then be able to problem solve on my own. And so that's where we have to, sometimes we're so close and we're so in the situation that we don't see the positive. We can focus in on, I could focus in on, that's not to say that I don't have moments like that, like where would my daughter be? What would she be going through? Those things. Then also stepping back and being grateful, finding the joy of, you know what, I got to have her for 20 years. Some people don't get to have their kids for that long. Maybe they're not even not blessed to have children. They find purpose in other things. So that's because if we stay in that, you still need to feel it. But if you stay there, but I will tell you, it wasn't easy. I mean, I had to remind myself constantly, what can you see that brings you joy? Because you can easily get caught in that hamster wheel of all the things. I mean, just turn on the TV right now, right? This morning, last night, what happened so close to some of us, to know that it happened just a state over is scary. And it's not to say that we live in this state of we're not going to address it or not feel it, but it's stepping back and seeing also that positive. Because if we can see the positive even when things aren't going or what we want them, how we want them to be going, it teaches us resiliency,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps us going and getting out of bed. Yeah.
And I seen a quote from Mr. Rogers years ago, and I might have even mentioned it on this call one day about like during times of hard or when things are going wrong is to look for the helpers. Like during times of tragedy, look for the helpers, look for those that are doing positive in that situation, that are there helping. And because we can really wrap ourselves around, if we wanted to, we could wrap ourselves around tragedy 24 hours a day. Yes. And I love what you said, but you have to sit in those moments. And I also think that is where having people in your lives that, like we have, you and I we talk on Marco Polo, which if people don't know what that is just a little video chat. But having your circle of people, and you might have different people that you go to for different things, but that it allows you to get out the emotions when you need to sit in the sad or the anxiety or any of that, but then also allows you to have somebody who sees like you're doing okay, you're going to be okay, you're going to make it through this, and then celebrate with you during the good transitions too.
Yes.
And you talk a lot about that too, about having your tribes, having your circles.
Yes. And I think that is sometimes people, we tend to think I don't have time for friends, right? I've seen a lot of memes like that saying, I'm a bad friend because I'm busy in my kids' life, my family's life, I'm taking care of my mother or my one of my kids is sick. Here's the thing, it's not necessarily about the quantity of time that you spend with those people. It's the quality. It's that when things are whether they're going good, so like you said, being able to call that person, it doesn't mean that you have to have 14 different people. And there's different layers of support. I talk about that a lot even when the transition of losing our daughter, the amount of people that came out from the woodworks, the people that showed up, and then the people that didn't. And there was some of that, like, retrospectively looking back, like, why didn't those people show up? And here's the thing is that what I've realized that 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with us and it has everything to do with what they're going through. I think of a friend of our family, and he said it took him 8 to 10 times to go around the block before he could actually come into our home after we had lost her. And then he was really never able to come back again. And at first I was kind of taken back by that, but I actually appreciated it afterwards that he at least told us that part, that it was hard for him to come, because then I understood. And I think so many times we're afraid to be authentic. We're afraid to be present and be honest with people. When honesty, maybe in that moment they aren't able to take it all in. But it's the retrospect and thinking back, okay, well, how would I feel?
Mhm.
I know that I've now been through that with some of my friends, losing a child, and what would it was hard. Even though I had been in that particular space, it was still hard for me to put myself in that space and go to their home or go and be there for them. So I had a very different view of what he said as time went on. So I think that the moral of the story, you might say, well, man, I haven't lost a child. I haven't been through major transitions. I'm just going through the regular life transitions. And so, but here's the thing is that find your person. And sometimes it's not a person that's even in your community. I mean, like you and I, we live an hour away from each other and we didn't know each other before 7 years ago. It's amazing how when you feel a connection with someone, don't be afraid to say, man, what you said or what you did really resonated with me. I think sometimes we think in this day and age that we don't want to draw attention to ourselves, or we might seem too mushy or whatever, or too emotional. But don't be. We all need connection, whether that's with your sister, your mother, your kid's teacher, whoever it is. But I think that that's what a lot of us are lacking. That's why I think you putting this platform out there for women to come together, we find solace and we find solidarity and we find connectiveness and we find there's strength in numbers, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so when we think that this is what often happens is we don't share our story, and then we suffer in silence. We suffer by ourselves over here, and we look at others and we think, well, they might be not going through that. But you know what? Just reaching out and saying, thanks for sending me a text today, or not waiting for somebody to do that to you. Giving that out. I can't say that enough. Giving, but not giving too much of yourself that you lose yourself. But by sharing with someone else or giving to them, even just spending time like today, can give to them and it will come back to you trifold. It really will. But I really want to hesitate on that I'm not asking you to give up what you're doing for yourself. You have to find that balance. And the reason why I talked about transitions this time is that during that we can get our emotions can get heightened. We've been fearing, the countdown of your kid graduating or your kid going off to school, those types of things, or going to daycare, or you're retiring. We can be leading up to that and thinking that it's going to happen this way, or we're going to have these feelings, and then we can often be felt with emptiness and we don't know what our next step is. And so I think that allowing yourself to have some of that contemplation time, like, really, what do you want? And I think as women, we don't give ourselves that very often. We don't have ourselves sit still. Sitting still, I think, for so many of us is a foreign word. So, for some people, it feels uncomfortable. So even just doing it for 60 seconds, like taking 60 seconds to say, what's something that I would like to do today that would bring me joy? Maybe it's, I'm going to finish this cup of coffee before it gets cold. I'm not going to put it back in the microwave 3 times. So, yeah.
I often feel like you give me permission to do that. Like when I forget to do that, you'll remind me. And it is hard. Like I just feel guilty if I just sit down and don't do anything. And like 10 in the morning, maybe I'm just going to sit down and have you know, I don't drink coffee, but or have some tea and just sit down and in the yard for a little bit. And then you feel guilty, like, I should be doing this and I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And I love, love, love that in your community, Nikki's community is called Cope Consulting NJ, and in her community, she really talks about that and gives us permission, like it's okay to take that time to contemplate and reflect and pause. And that's okay. Like you said before, it's the balance. It's the balance of all of those things. It's the balance of spending some time with people that help you grow, that bring you joy, but also spending some time by yourself. And it is hard. It gets uncomfortable sometimes.
Well, I think
Just
a lot of times we just don't even know. I said that probably about 3 years ago at that first event that we had. Another gal had said, I don't even know who I am. And I said, I'm still figuring that out too. And even today, I know more about myself, but there's still parts of me that I don't know. And I think that we have to change that mentality that rest is necessary. I think especially in the Midwest or wherever you're from, I don't know if it's just here or it's around the world. I think that we have to earn rest. And I'm here to tell you that's so not true. Whether you're religious or not, if you're religious, I say to you, God even had to take he took the seventh day off, So that's where, and nobody's going to come and do it for you. You have to be intentional about it. You have to put it into your schedule. Whatever that is, sometimes I'll say I often do meditation, I go out for walks, things like that. But just because that's what works for me doesn't mean that that's what has to work for you. Some people say if I try to make myself sit still, my mind, it actually is adverse for me. So I tell them, don't do that then. If you're a person that if you could just even pace back and forth, it's amazing what that can do. A repetition of a behavior, or somebody that likes to knit. I mean, there's reasons why grandmas, when, certain parts of history, or even there's lots of people that still do it now, it's a very calming activity. Anything that's repetitive like that, it gives that motion and it lets our bodies know that we're okay. And I think that especially in those times of great change, of those transitions, we get caught up in the energy of it, and we forget to step back and like check in with our bodies. And I think I know for me, I was often afraid to like know what my body felt, because I did often feel that sense of I need to get up and move, but that was because that had been ingrained in me until I started to say no, you have to. For me, I would try to get myself to sit still. Because if I didn't, then I would find something else to, take my mind off of that. So, just even small snippets of it, sending a text out, and then to somebody saying, hey, you mean something to me, or even doing a voice message. I tell people that all the time. Use your voice on your phone. But the biggest thing is that don't be afraid to be authentic. Don't be afraid to show up for you. Think about how much time you spend on showing up for everyone else. Don't be afraid to do that for yourself. Yeah.
Nikki,
Well,
this
Yeah.
has been very eye-opening for me. I know Jenny talks really highly of you, and I've kind of gotten to see some of your social media as of recent. But just as a first-time mom, hearing all of these things, that it was like you were talking right to me with everything. I'm just like shaking my head listening. The um, resting, finding time for yourself. That's been something I've really been focusing on. And as a first time mom that stays at home 24/7 with our daughter, I feel like the caretaker all the time. And I've even had to kind of step back sometimes. I know you talked about your son going off to college and you kind of like still mothering him. I've had to step back sometimes and like not do that to my husband,
Yes.
because it's kind of hard to turn off that role of like you're the helper all the time, or you have to be guiding someone. So I'm loving every single thing that you have said on here, and it really truly feels like you're just like speaking right to me. Um, if you could give, so I'll be 35 in June, so I just turned 34. As a first time mom, in my mid 30s, if you could give just one piece of advice to someone my age that's maybe going through those transitions of like getting married, having kids, starting their families or anything that we would be going through right now, what would be the one thing that you would say to, my age group?
I thank you, Shelby, for asking that question, because I actually feel that part of my mission, even though I'm going to be 49 shortly, and is that part of my mission is that I want to be able to show the younger women out there that you don't have to do it all. I'm here to tell you I've done that. I got the top of my game for my job. I was making, oodles and money. I had a day job. I did Ruby Ribbon on the side. I mean, I did all the things. I was in all the things. I was head of PTO, all those, teaching Sunday school. I mean, I was on school board because I thought that's what meant to be a good mom. I thought that's what it meant to be. And I'm not saying that you still can't do those things, but I think we build this up in our mind of all the things that we have to do, and ourselves are never even one of the things on the list. So my hope, my advice for someone that is your age or younger or older is that it is imperative. I pray that you learn it now, to put it into your schedule, that you know what, you turn off the mothering, or turn off, saying, you know what, when your hubby gets home at night, that, you know what, I'm going to go out for a walk. You have her suppers or you know what, I need you to take her and I need you to make supper. We think that we have to take care of everyone. And in the midst of that, we are losing ourselves. And so my hope is that by telling my story, and that I figured it out, because I remember thinking to myself, who do I have to call to tell them to slow down my life? How do I get some of these things how do I get off those committees? How do I stop mothering my husband? I'm still working on that one, Shelby. And so the biggest thing is that what's one thing that you can do that will give time to you? Whatever you choose to do, if that means to go get your nails done, if that is to take a hot shower for 5 more minutes than you normally do, if that's to go out and take a walk. One of the gals I'm coaching, she's like, you know what, I am so sick and tired of making supper every night. And I said, okay, so what's one thing? How can we put one thing on your plate, but we have to take one thing off? So she said, you know what we implemented is that Friday nights are pizza night. They order out. And they get cheap, it's $10, $15, whatever it is, but mama knows every Friday night she does not have to cook. And that's one thing she chose to do for herself. It gave her back that 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, so then the 20, 30 hour minute, or 60 minutes that you would normally be making that food for your family, what are you doing with that instead? I don't want you to just give it to your family, right? We're trying to give you back some time. So making sure that she is purposeful in those 15, 20 minutes, instead of making the pizza and ordering the pizza, then she goes out for a walk. She tells her husband, but that took bravery too. It took courage, because she felt that was, failing at first by saying, hey, I need you to do this. And 9 times out of 10, when our people that love us, when we say, hey, I need you to help me to do this, most of the time they say okay to that, because they've been wanting to know how they can help. But we're such strong, independent women. We were like, oh, I got it. But then we really don't. So that would be my piece of advice, is what's one thing? Maybe you can't do it every day. If you can, that's fantastic. What's one thing that you can put in your week that gives time back to you? Start it now, because it takes a lot of undoing and unlearning behaviors when you get to be my age, to put yourself back into that list of people that matter.
And I wanted to jump in here too, is it can seem selfish, and at this time you feel that way. You feel so selfish. Like, Shelby, I know that you take Lakin and the dog for walks all the time, but maybe you're like, that'd be really nice to go for one by myself, where I'm not picking up toys that are getting thrown around and the dog has to stop and blah, 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 blah. Like, there is a total difference of going by yourself when you can just really look around. Like, wow, there's leaves on the trees. I didn't even notice that. Like,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, when we start to do that ourselves, we are giving other people permission without even knowing it. They're looking at it and going, oh, she can do that. Like, maybe I can go do that. And even for your husband, by you saying, I need 15 minutes, and then you could even just say, and then when I come back, if you need 15 minutes to go do something, you go do it. And then it starts for you both to appreciate and understand each other and give each other that time. And that way, I just feel like that way he is seeing, like, oh, it's okay to do that. And then the next day he might be like, my 15 minutes were wonderful. I'm going to ask Shelby if she wants to do that again. So now he's going to give you, like, you're giving each other permission to do that. So I think
Yeah.
when we allow ourselves to do it, other people start to go, oh, that's okay. She could do that. Maybe I could do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing I'm going to say is that before I understood that that was necessary, I would look at other people. I'll give you an example. You know, people would leave on time from my old job, and I'd look at them, some of them, and I'd be like, well, it must be nice. You know, must be nice. And actually, later on, I realized they knew the secret all along. They were holding that boundary that, you know what, hey, work is over. I'm going to go home. And so for myself, when I was over functioning in a lot of those areas, I didn't realize the damage I was doing to myself, right? And so, and it's okay. That's a lot of the healing is realizing I'm not here to shame myself, but I have to know it, name it, and claim it in order to be able to move through it and move past it and realize, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that again. I appreciate you being willing to talk about like, hey, this is what it kind of looks like in my life. How do I do that? And you know what? And at first it might seem really hard to give up 5, 10, 15 minutes, but I encourage you, if you're spending 24/7 caretaking for your daughter, I think you owe yourself a little bit more than 15 minutes a week. You know? So, but
Yeah.
start small. Start small. It's baby steps, right? And realizing that it's okay to take a day for yourself eventually, or take an afternoon, or when she's down for a nap, she's down for a nap. Somebody else can, you know, or get a babysitter and you go out to watch a outdoor theater, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That is just as valuable because like when JennyLee said that, it gives others permission. You also are teaching your children that it is important to take care of themselves because so many times I think that's why a lot of women, maybe even your age or younger, a little bit older, they look at us moms and they're like, heck no, I can't do everything you do. You know, I can't do all the things. So then they say I'm not going to, which I'm very proud of. You know, I'm happy for them. But we don't do a very good job of showing everybody all the things that we do. And so then we get a little upset or resentful. And so by sharing with them, saying, you know what, I do need help. Asking for help is one of the most vulnerable and brave things that we can do. And we owe it to ourselves and those around us that love us to ask them for that. So that would be my last piece of advice is don't forget to ask for help. I think that a lot of us think that we're supposed to be, that means we're weak. Actually, it means that I think we're smarter that way. If we know to ask when we need it, like JennyLee said, then it gives others permission to do the same.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that is something that my daughter's 14 months old. And I know the first probably 6 to 8 months, I really struggled with just the communicating with my husband, my needs. I remember the first time I had like hit my breaking point and felt extremely overwhelmed and feeling like I knew that I needed help. And I am also a people pleaser and very stubborn, and I'm like, I can do all of this myself. And then the cloud was hanging over me too, that if I asked for help, that meant that I wasn't being a good enough mom to my daughter or that I was failing. Um, but I remember the first time that I had to just sit down with my husband and be like, I think I need time for myself every single day when you get home. And he's like, well, how much time? Like, what does that look like? I mean, he was on board with it instantly and understanding. But even at that time, I was like, I don't know what that looks like. I just know that I need it.
I love that.
And so it has transitioned into, getting to solo walk with just my dog. And I know that in a sense, it's still caretaking, but it's nice to not have to push a stroller, or do those things. Like we can walk at a faster pace now or kind of take our time and do what we need. Um, but it went from, solo walks with my dog to even I'm going to go sit in the bathtub for a little while with the door closed while you guys go upstairs because, you know, I feel like I'm going to be talking to a lot of moms here where bathroom time is not one like your alone time when you have a baby, and I know you ladies understand it. there were times where I'd be like, I'm gonna go shower, and my husband would have Lakin in there, like, oh look, here's mom, like, there's mom, and I felt so guilty, and I would just get angry and frustrated,
Yes.
that I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to take 5 minutes in the shower for myself, and I'm still having to like take care of her at the same time. He was
Yes.
physically holding her, but I'm having to entertain her.
Yes.
So that conversation was extremely hard. So I would
Mhm.
encourage, like Nikki said, for those of you that are in that same space or time as me right now, like have those hard conversations with your husband if you need to, because you deserve that time for yourself so that you don't lose yourself in motherhood too. But thank you so much for sharing all that, Nikki. Like, I wish I had a notepad and was writing everything down, because I feel like those are steps that I'm trying to take every single day for myself. But hearing it from someone else, it's like giving me the permission to do it and continue doing it. And nothing's better as a mom to hear you're doing a good job and it's
Yes.
okay to
Yes.
think of yourself and do those things for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you need that, here's the thing, don't forget, like, sometimes to even do that, like, call a friend and say, I don't know how many times Jenny Lee and I've done that to each other, or some other friends that we connect with on Marco, saying, I just need somebody to tell me that this is okay.
Mhm. Yep.
I just need some validation, even though, and so that's okay. Find that person, and if you don't know someone within you, or in your community or whatever, hey, reach out to us. We'll do it, right? We'll be there for you. Find who you need. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, we could talk all day. Believe me. Believe me, we could talk all day. But we've taken up a lot of your time, and we always try to keep this around 30 minutes because we ran a little late too. We're a little over that. But I think we're gonna wrap up for today. But you guys can follow Nikki over at Cope Consulting NJ for Nikki Johnsrud, and I'll put the link in the comments here. And Nikki also puts on Girlfriend Getaway Weekends. So if you are in the area, or if you want to put yourself in our area, she's got one coming up at the end of September up in Watford City, North Dakota. It's a day girlfriend getaway, and then there's a 3-day event that happens in Medora. You guys fly in for that one. It's 3 days, and it is what we talked about today expanded. Like, and time for yourself. Do you want to do a 30 seconds on that, Nikki?
Yeah, so what the Girlfriend Getaway is at the heart of it, it's about connection with other women and themselves. But I try to bring in people that have stories to share. We learn a lot from hearing someone else, like we just talked about Shelby saying, hey, I wish I would have had this earlier. We learn from others. And so I try to bring people in that have their personal stories, and also people that can talk to us about health needs. I know that that's been a conversation on here too, talking about hormones, talking about how to take care of ourselves, how to have that better wellness, whether it's mind, body, or soul. And so a gamut of that. And then in the 3-dayer, we also have time where they get to have individual time with maybe getting a facial or massage. So we try to take care of that self-care and soul care. So it's definitely a place to be. Take the time and say yes to yourself.
Yeah, and every speaker you've ever had has been phenomenal. It's so amazing. So, and you guys can learn more about that on her page too. So, thank you, Nikki, so much for joining us today. I did see there's comments, but I'm going to reply to those once we get off of here. That there's been some comments, and somebody said they weren't seeing us real well, which it's so hard because on my phone I can see us, on my computer I can see us. So I'm sorry if the vision isn't great for everybody, but hopefully you could hear us. And thank you so much for being here, Nikki and Shelby. And let's go have a great week, everybody.
Yes. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great
Yes.
day.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye, ladies.